Exactly 1 year ago, COVID-19 was declared a pandemic and cruising was halted worldwide. Many declared the whole cruising industry dead, but today, 1 year later, all major cruise lines are still standing strong and are about to make the comeback of the century. Today, we will be looking at how cruise lines survived and why cruising will return stronger than ever before. And we'll tell you exactly what will happen in the crucial coming months when cruising will ultimately return. But first, we have to go back in time to February 2020. The Diamond Princess just became the largest cluster of COVID-19 cases outside of mainland China. And as the ship is quarantining in Yokohama, Japan, 712 out of the just over 3,700 passengers and crew tested positive for COVID-19, 14 of which will end up succumbing to symptoms later on. Soon, infections spread across the cruise ship fleet around the globe, and by March, over 50 ships reported onboard infections. Then, on March 13th, under increasing pressure, all members of the CLIA, the largest association of cruise lines, voluntarily halted all cruising operations worldwide. 1 day later, the CDC announced its notice of no sail order, meaning no cruise ships are allowed to sail from and to the United States with passengers, initially set to last just 1 month. This timeline ended up being way too optimistic, as the order was extended again and again and again. In the meantime, the cruising industry fell to its knees. Stock prices dropped by over 80%, destroying decades of growth within days. Rumors of bankruptcies of major cruise lines were spread all over the media. Several old cruise ships had to be sold off and scrapped for quick cash. 500,000 direct and indirect employees became unemployed, and hundreds of thousands of crew members had to be sent home and repatriated. The Financial Times went as far as saying, "This is the end of the cruising industry." And this brings us to the present day. With the exception of a handful of cruise ships in Asia and Europe, most cruise operations worldwide are still halted. So why are we so optimistic and talking of the comeback of a century? Well, there are two reasons, and we'll delve into both of them. One is the nature of the cruising industry and its customers, and two is a turning point in the pandemic. Let's start with the former, the nature of the cruising industry. Researchers at Princeton University have studied the cruising industry since its emergence in the late 1960s. They realized over the years a lot changed in the market, but one thing remained the same: the undeterred expansion of the industry, both in good and bad times. Through the 2001 recession, the September 11th attacks, the financial crisis and recession of 2008 to 2009, the Costa Concordia disaster in 2012, the PR nightmare of the Carnival Triumph poop cruise, the norovirus outbreaks in 2017, and soon even the COVID-19 pandemic, the industry always had a V-shaped recovery. While most industries take years to recover from setbacks and recessions, cruising takes days. Why? Cruise passengers are some of the most loyal customers around the world, returning for cruise vacations year after year after year. Regardless of circumstances, the demand always exceeds the supply. And we fully expect cruising to not just return to pre-pandemic levels, but actually surpass them in 2022. A report by Cruise Industry News estimates that 31.7 million cruise passengers will set sail in 2022, which would be a massive 14% increase since the last full cruising season of 2019, where 27.8 million passengers set sail. By 2027, the industry is expected to grow to nearly 39 million passengers, a 40% increase in just 8 years. And these estimates seem to be coming true. After a full year of no cruising, the cruising demand has reached record levels. Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Norwegian, and many others reported record-breaking numbers for 2022 and 2023 sailings, several of which are already fully booked years in advance, including a 180-day global cruise starting at $42,000 per person, which sold out in less than 20 hours. The dissonance between supply and demand over the last year will keep cruising afloat for decades to come. The second reason for the soon-to-come comeback of the industry is the turning point in the pandemic, which we have now crossed. Vaccines no longer are a scarcity, but will soon start to become widely available throughout the United States. 26%, or 1 out of 4 American adults, has received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. Vaccinations have reached an average of 2.5 million doses every single day. By May of this year, it is estimated that all members of the general public will get access to vaccine doses. And although all 3 vaccines currently available, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, may not protect you 100% of getting COVID-19, they've been proven to reduce hospitalization and death to nearly 0%. With the most vulnerable of our society protected from the virus, cruising is on the verge of resuming. Israel, for instance, where more than 50% of its population has been vaccinated, has allowed to resume cruises for vaccinated passengers starting in May of this year. And Royal Caribbean is sending its brand new unused ship, the Odyssey of the Seas, to serve those customers. The question for American cruises is no longer if, but when. And the most likely resumption dates, according to cruise ports, employees and suppliers, is June and July of this year. And this turns our attention to the how. How will cruising look like when it resumes? Cruises operating right now out of Singapore, Italy and China are all relatively restrictive. Passengers are not allowed to leave the ship independently and must take shore excursions operated by the cruise ship. The onboard experience is limited, with seating capacities due to social distancing and mandatory masking on board. This is expected to change due to the advent of vaccines. The CDC itself says the following: fully vaccinated people can gather indoors without physical distancing or wearing masks with other people who have been fully vaccinated, and unvaccinated people from one other household if none of them are of a vulnerable risk group. Although most cruise lines have not announced it yet, it is expected that they will mandate vaccines for both passengers and crew, at least in the first few months of the resumption of cruises. This will mean that current health protocols, including social distancing and face masks, will no longer be needed to set sail. To stay up to date with the ever closer coming cruise comeback, which we are very excited about, make sure to subscribe for future cruise content. If you found this informative, please leave a like or check out one of our other videos linked below. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep cruising.